Hello everyone, Shintobean here, and I'm continuing my faction focus series. For this video I will be talking about the Aeldari faction. And I think it's going to be a bit of a challenge because they have a huge variety of cards and strategies. Each of their warlords is very unique, so I'm going to do my best here. So first of all, I'm going to just start off with my favorite Eldari Warlord. This is the Zephyr Blade. This is a ranged oriented warlord. Whenever any card is destroyed, all of his units get a ranged buff. I like him because he's very straightforward and very easy to use, I think, for beginners. Very powerful special rule that stacks over the course of the game. All you need is a bunch of ranged bodyguards with him and you're good to go. And I'll just go down the line here. Rakarth is a new addition, the newest addition to Aeldari, and he is actually really good. His special rule, well, okay, looking at his stats, he may look pretty bad. I think he has the weakest stats for any warlord, so you don't want him on the battlefield, but his special rule is really strong. It just buffs the health of all of your units, including ones you haven't deployed throughout the battle. So by the end, even your weakest bodyguards become these tanks that are really hard to kill. And because of that, he has a lot of flexibility also with army composition. You can put pretty much any combination of bodyguards in there, and it could work. He also doesn't need to be a high level to be effective, so I think he would also be a good one for beginners if you have him. Next we have Eldrad. He is the psychic warlord for Eldar, and he is pretty powerful himself once you get him up to level 3, but he has, I think, one of the weakest special rules of any warlord in the game. It's very situational, only activates when the enemy card's ready, which is typically not very often. And also because he is a psyker, you kind of are forced to just play psychers in his deck, so not really a whole lot of options for him. I don't think he's really that good of a warlord at this point in the game. And then finally we have Fury of the Craft World. This is the most expensive warlord in the game, points wise, so you are very limited in the type of bodyguards you can have with him. He's very powerful and he gives a huge boost in melee damage to your units one by one whenever a card is destroyed. He's a little bit deceptively tricky to play as, though. I think I played him a lot earlier at the lower ranks, and he's fun because you can just deal tons of damage with your units very quickly. But recently I've kind of struggled to find a good competitive deck for him, so I haven't been using him as much lately. Alright, moving on to the bodyguards. I'm going to try to keep this brief, but it could take a little while to get through. Up in the top row, I think this is my favorite bodyguard of all time for the Eldar. Very powerful, this Wraith Fighter. Massive range damage and psychic. It's a combo you don't see very often, the ranged and psychic, but very useful. Yeah, at level 5 it's just extremely powerful, especially with when paired with the Zephyr Blade. And let's see, we have the Pain Engine. I haven't used this very much. I just haven't been able to get enough copies to level it very high, but I think it would be very good with Rakarth here, with the poison, and I mean, it has pretty decent base damage there too. High health as well. The Wraith Lord I have not really used ever. I just have gotten very few copies of it over the past year, and it's just, yeah, not for me. Legendary here, the Incarn. This one also I haven't really used much. I think at level 3 it becomes pretty powerful. It's also the only Eldar unit with regeneration, but the points cost makes it pretty prohibitively expensive, hard to field. Moving down the line here. This guy was originally a pay-only, you had to pay real money for him, and I did not do that. So I just recently got him. I guess he was introduced into the general pool. He's a very powerful ranged card who would work well with the Zephyr Blade, but yeah, he's only at level 2 for me, so I haven't put him in there yet. at level 4 he gets a lot stronger, so if I'm able to get him up there, I will definitely put him into my Zephyr Blade deck. This other Phoenix Lord for the Howling Banshees, Jane Zar She, I guess, is also pretty powerful bodyguard. I've used her with the Avatar. Yeah, that's pretty much all I'll say about that. This is the most powerful psychic bodyguard that the Eldar have. This Farseer with a psychic link. But the thing with link is it kind of restricts your options. To make the most of it, you have to have other psychers in your deck, so I really only use this guy with Eldrad at the moment. Moving down the line, another legendary bodyguard here, the Solitaire. This one you see quite often. It's pretty low points cost for a massive amount of damage, and it's actually, thanks to its fear trait, it can stay on the battlefield for a little bit longer. If you can unlock the fear level 2, it is especially fearsome, and this is also a really good card with Rakarth. You can imagine how deadly that would be with double its health. So yeah, pretty good option. I do like this Farseer Skyrunner. I just like the model, and it has pretty decent damage for all attack types. But again, with Psychic Link, I used to have it in my Zephyr Blade deck, but I took it out and just in the Eldrad deck. I don't want to talk about every single card here, so I'm going to skim over a few of them. I think a lot of the Psychers, they do have quite a few Psychers, but I really only use them with Eldrad. I do see this Drukhari Jet Fighter pretty often, but I'm not a huge fan of these mono attackers, units that only have one attack, since they are weak to like shields and debuffs and stuff, so I haven't really used this thing very much. Moving down, this Grotesque recently, it was released pretty recently and also just got its trait swapped to Berserk. It is the only Eldar unit with Berserk. This would also be very good in a Rakarth deck with the bonus health. These others I don't use so much. For my Zephyr Blade deck, which I've used the most throughout my career, the Warwalker has been very useful with its ranged buff there. The Ranger is also a very powerful option for ranged damage. And yeah, down towards the bottom here, we get into the fodder type cards. There's a number of them that are melee only, and a few that are ranged only, and a few that are a mix. It's just a kind of mixed bag, quite a bit of variety there, and a lot of them I think are pretty interchangeable. They're cheap, so you can just fill up any extra points that you have left over in your deck with some combination of these guys. Most Eldar Warlords gain, or their special rule triggers when friendly and enemy cards die. So Eldar cards in general have less health than other factions, I think, but they do deal quite a bit of damage, and having that smaller health is not actually that huge of a disadvantage, since it does trigger the Warlord special ability. So that is the Eldar roster for you. If you have any questions about specific bodyguards, let me know. Also, if you think there are any cards that I overlooked that you have found to be useful, let me know in the comments. As always, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.